Hey, Mama. So today I really want to talk about hard seasons of motherhood. And specifically, how do you continue to run your business when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you are experiencing, an uncomfortable transition in motherhood in your life? A lot of times the feeling of overwhelm, the stress and everything can really interfere how we show up in our businesses. And so that is what I want to talk about today. And you guys, if you've been listening to the podcast for some time, I shared back in episode 104 about when my daughter had a seizure. And so just dealing with that and, recently supporting some clients who've been navigating some really challenging seasons as moms and business owners, I really wanted to talk about this. A lot of times we see that, we're told to press through and all of these things and just, get through that difficult season. And I want to come at it from a different perspective because we hold a lot on our plates as mamas. So that is what we're going to be talking about today, just navigating those hard seasons of motherhood and how to actually, still show up in your business when you are going through it. All right, let's jump into today's episode. Hey, Mama. Welcome to the Mama Turn Mompreneur podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Singletary, a wife, mama of two, and former virtual assistant turned podcast strategist and producer. This is a podcast for the mama who is burnt out trying to build her business on social media. You're tired of putting in so much time and energy marketing your business on social media, only to hear crickets and barely get any engagement on your posts. You don't have time to waste as a busy mama, and you need an effective way to generate leads for your business. Well, Mama, you're in the right place. On this podcast, I will be giving you the inside scoop on how to create a podcast that generates consistent leads for your business on autopilot, mixed in with some mompreneur hacks and tips for growing your business as a busy mama. So grab your coffee, your notebook and pen, put in those earbuds, and let's dive in. Okay, so let's talk about navigating hard seasons of motherhood. What to do when you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, maybe you're currently in a situation you don't want to be in, and it's impacting, how you're running your business. So I've been there. I've been there many times as a business owner. I've been in situations where we were, me and my husband and our kids, we were staying with family, until we were able to get settled in our own place and doing that while running my business. And it impacted me. If you've ever been in a situation where you had to stay with family and you had your little ones with you, it is not a comfortable situation. That's when you really start to see where people aren't okay with everything your kids are doing, like how they usually are like, oh, that's so cute that little so-and-so does that. No, not until they're actually living with you and they're doing those things on a daily basis. But just in general, when you're not in your own environment, when you're not able to set the tone for your home, that's going to impact you. Or, if you're just dealing with a difficult time, like maybe your kids are teething, maybe, the baby is going through another leap and you're not getting enough sleep. Like, how do you still function in your business when you're dealing with that? So, one of the things I want to say is that you have to show yourself grace in these difficult seasons. And it's like, we hear that all the time, but what does that actually look like? That looks like when you have that moment and maybe you lose it. Maybe you snap at your husband. You show yourself grace. Of course, you go, you ask for forgiveness, you talk it out, but you go easy on yourself because you're operating from that fear, or not that fear, you're operating from that frustration, you're operating from that overwhelm. And so you have to show yourself grace because those moments are going to happen, until you're able to change whatever it is that is making, that season of motherhood hard. So that is the first thing I want to say. You have to show yourself grace. You have to be loving and forgiving towards yourself. One of the things that I have learned from a parent coach that I work with, Sarah Whaley, she was on the podcast. I believe it was back in episode 15. I will make sure to link it in the show notes. But I worked with her when I was in a really, really hard season of motherhood. And one strategy she gave me was to make sure I was getting micro recharges throughout the day. And I thought she was crazy when she introduced me to this concept, but basically, it's where you take anywhere from like 5 to 10 minutes for yourself throughout the day. And you do something just for you to kind of give you that energy boost, that mood boost, so that way you can still function throughout the day. So for me, if my husband is home, me going to Starbucks to get me something to drink, just so I'm getting out the house, I'm getting away by myself. And literally just doing those little things, whether it's like throughout the day, throughout the week, it gave me that little boost that I needed to, not be as reactive in those difficult moments. And so that is something that you can start incorporating and figuring out, what does that look like for you? Is that you maybe getting up earlier in the morning before the kids and taking some time to journal? If you're a Christian, spending time in your word and praying, like, what is it that you can do for yourself to kind of give you that micro recharge or that boost, or even just to try to set the tone for your day? So that way you're not constantly feeling that overwhelm. So that is like one thing I recommend. Something that I've also supported my clients with is, when you're feeling that overwhelm and you have a lot going on in that hard season of motherhood, your business is not going to be a top priority. And that is hard to hear, but it's not, because you have all of these other things going on personally. You're not going to be able to give more to your business. So what I coach my clients on is, what is one thing that we can focus on right now to move the needle forward in your business? What is the one thing that you can do that is going to really push things forward in your business? So for some of my clients, that has looked like really focused on building and engaging their community. So that way, when they are ready to launch their offers, they have an engaged community that is ready to buy. And so we really would map out, what that looks like for them, how often they're showing up, how they're going to show up to really, build their community and connect with them, whether that's via email, whether that's via their podcast content, whether that's, some of them, they are active on social media. So what does that look like for them? And that they can just focus on that one thing and make it more manageable, and still know that they are doing things to build their business. They are still doing things to move the needle forward. They're not stepping away completely from their business. They're just focusing on one thing that isn't going to take more out of them. So for you, if you are in that hard season of motherhood, what does that look like for you? What is the one thing that you can focus on right now that's going to move the needle forward in your business? Now, one thing that I do not do as a coach is, I do not coach my clients to press through or simply change their mindset around a situation. And I bring this up because I've seen that being promoted as a strategy or coaches saying like this is how they support their clients. And I'm not about that, as a mama and the women that I serve, our children, our family, ourselves, that's top priority. It will always come before this business. So I'm not going to tell my clients, oh, you just need to press through. Or, you know what, you have the wrong mindset. We need to work on your mindset. No, you are in a challenging season. So, what can we do to make this all more manageable for you? Because when you're in a difficult season, you don't have control or you feel like you don't have any control. And so it's easy to spiral, especially as mamas, when we feel like we do not have control over the situation. Now, will I support my clients with mindset? Yes. And one of the things that we focus on is like, okay, what do you have control over in this situation? And so that control looks like, okay, I can choose what to focus on in my business. I can choose how I'm going to respond in this situation. I can choose, how I'm going to still find joy despite what's going on. I can choose how I'm going to take care of myself in this situation. So that's the type of mindset stuff we work on, not, oh, you need to press through. Oh, you're not having a, good mindset or you're being negative. No, that's not what we do over here. So I share that because the reality is that our personal lives, what we're dealing with in our home, in relationships and different things, it impacts how we show up in our businesses. If we're trying to create content from a place of overwhelm and stress, that's going to reflect in our content. And either we're going to turn off our audience or we're going to attract the wrong people. And so, like, I personally, if I'm like not in a good headspace, I'm not creating content. Like, I'm not because I know that the content I come up with, it's not going to truly reflect who I am. So that is something that I do not, encourage my clients to do or anything like that. You know, Again, like the goal at the end of the day is to make things more manageable. So it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy, but when we feel like we have control, and I don't want to even say feel like it, when we focus on the things that we actually can control during this hard season, then we can create a more realistic plan that aligns with where we're at, what our current capacity is, what we can currently do in this season of life. And then that's when that overwhelm starts to decrease because now we have an action plan. Now we have things that we can realistically focus on. And again, just makes it overall more manageable. And then we can think with that clarity because when we're overwhelmed and stressed, we are not thinking clearly. We are in fight or flight mode, we're in survival mode. And so every little thing is just going to set us off. And so we need to get out of that place and really be able to look at the situation and see, like, okay, what can I realistically control? What can I focus on? What can I manage? And how can I do it in a way that fits my current season of life, that is within the realm of my current capacity? So just to share like how I navigate these hard seasons. So back in episode 104, I shared with you guys that my daughter had a seizure. And so one of the things or I don't even want to say one of the things, I did a few things to really support me in navigating that hard situation. So one thing I did that was very therapeutic for me was I shared about it on the podcast and I shared about it to my email list. And really just talking about it and verbalizing what happened, it really helped calm my nervous system. And it really gave me clarity in that situation. And it was just very just relieving and, like I said, therapeutic for me. Another thing I did was I actually did meet with my therapist. And that's part of my self-care. I meet with my therapist monthly, and that is something that I have to do. Like, that is just part of my self-care, pouring into myself, all of that. Another thing I did was I canceled all of my client calls and blocked off my calendar for 2 weeks. And I did that because I knew that I was not going to be able to focus enough to support my clients in that way. I really was hyper focused on my daughter, especially because at the time when it happened, I didn't know if this was going to be a reoccurring thing. And so I really just wanted to focus on her and focus on my son too, just be with my kids and everything. And I just didn't have the mental capacity to show up on Zoom calls. So I blocked off my calendar and canceled, all of my client meetings. And my clients were very understanding. And like I shared in back in episode 114, in that because I've started attracting clients who have the same values as me, meaning that they prioritize motherhood over their business, I knew they weren't going to be upset. I even had some of them reach out to me before I could even reach out to them to say, hey, let's reschedule the call. I know what happened with your daughter. So because I made that shift and made sure to really start attracting those clients who shared my values, that's helped so much. So that wasn't even a big deal. I didn't have anybody upset or anything like that. And then another thing I did was I took that time and I cuddled with my kids. We were in our PJs more often than not. We watched a lot of movies and relaxed, and I really just took it easy. I did only the things that I had to do, and that was it. I did not do anything extra. I don't even think I think how I showed up on socials was like, I was just sharing kind of like how I was navigating this situation. And that was part of me processing and kind of, just my form of self-care is just was talking about what happened and how I'm navigating it and processing those feelings and everything like that. And so that's what worked for me. That's what really helped me to. Okay, so I just had like my phone alarm go off and I lost my train of thought. But I think I was saying basically like those are the things that I did to kind of really support me navigating, that hard season of motherhood. And one thing I'll say that has helped me overall, and again, I talked about this back in episode 114 and in episode 115, but preparing. Because in life in general, but also when you're responsible for tiny humans, you have to expect the unexpected. And so for me, that looks like taking advantage of those moments when, in a sense, they're peaceful. It's calm. It's not chaos. When I have additional support with the kids. So like coming up this month, my mom is going to be off from work for a couple of weeks. And you best believe that the days that she's off, I've already planned different things so that I can get ahead in my business, get ahead on client work and different things like that because she's available. And I've already talked to her about it, and she wants to spend that time with her grandkids. So I do those things so that way, when I have those hard seasons of motherhood, or just when I'm going through it myself, when I just don't feel like showing up, I have that flexibility because I've already put some things in place. I've already gotten ahead in certain areas. So that way, if I need to take a day or if I need to take a week, I can do that without there being any consequences, without my business falling apart. I also really have just gotten better with getting ahead in recording my podcast content. So getting anywhere from 2 weeks to a month ahead. writing out my emails for the month ahead of time, just doing little things to really get ahead. So again, I have that flexibility. I have that freedom. I'm not stressing, worrying how to get it all done. So that is one thing I do recommend doing when you can. Now, is this something I do every single week? No. I really look at my own energy level, how I'm feeling and whatnot, whether or not I'm on my cycle, because that really does impact things. Like when I'm on my cycle, I don't want to do nothing. So I look at all of these different things, and that is how I plan out whether or not I'm going to try to get ahead and whatnot, or if I know ahead of time that I have something coming up, you best believe I'm going to get ahead. So that way, when it comes for that like fun filled weekend or whatever is going on, I don't have to worry about doing anything other than going and having fun. And that is the beautiful thing about having your own business. You get to set your own hours. You get to set it up the way that you want to. You're the CEO of this business. You're in control. So that is it for this episode. Again, the waitlist for Life in Seasons one-on-one coaching is now open. We're going to be getting started in January. I'm only taking on so many clients for one-on-one. So if you want to be the first to know when spots are available and get access to exclusive bonuses, head over to mompreneur.com/coaching and hop on the wait list. I hope that this episode was really helpful for you. Just again, really being able to navigate these hard seasons of motherhood, because they're going to happen, right? They're going to happen. Life is going to life. And so there are things that you can do to prepare, but at the end of the day, show yourself so much grace, so much love, and know that you are doing amazing, mama. You are doing so many great things. Your kids are loved well. If you are married, your spouse is loved well. And know that you are loved. You are doing amazing. Your clients appreciate you. You are doing so much for them. You are making such an impact. All right, mama, I'll catch you in the next episode. Mama, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to hang with me. Whether you're a podcaster ready to create podcast content that attracts her dream clients, or a mama that's ready to stop the social media burnout and simplify her marketing through podcasting, I can support you. Head on over to mompreneur.com/connect to submit an interest form so we can chat about how I can best support you. All right, mama, I will talk to you again soon.